The hyphen between African and American is Wyoming-wide, wishing well steep, Himalaya high, and Grand Canyon deep. Long as rambling roads, plantation to ghetto. Long as barcodes on brown flesh. Long as 40 acres and a mule been in the mail. Long as Confederate flags fluttering over southern cities today. The hyphen between African and American is Wyoming-wide, wishing well steep, Himalaya high, and Grand Canyon deep. Long as rambling roads, plantation to ghetto. Long as 56 licks last on Los Angeles streets. Long as list of white jurors trying black men accused. Long as sentences to San Quentin and Angola fused. Long as the serpentine comma between no justice, no peace. Long as the exclamation point behind hug the police.
Welcome everyone to our Frederick Douglass Day alternative 4th of July celebration where we commemorate Frederick Douglass's historic 1852 speech, "What is the 4th of July to the slave?" And we also provide an alternative for those who do not wish to engage in the bellicosity and jingoism and chauvinism that the 4th of July represents. So anyway, we're in a very peculiar situation this year in that because of COVID-19 and other factors, we're not able to present this event at our NWU offices in mid-Manhattan, where we would be able to set up the sound system and have refreshments and on and on and on. However, there's also a twist in that we're able to have friends and family and long lost acquaintances and comrades and friends in Hawaii, Florida, and Los Angeles, to name a few. And we're in the midst of the best of times and the worst of times, so to speak, the unity and struggle of opposites, the dialectics of, on the one hand, having this pandemic and hundreds of thousands of people dying and millions being infected, and yet we have tens of thousands of people, particularly younger people, who are out in the streets advancing a heroic struggle against racism and patriarchy and homophobia and capitalism, basically, bottom line. And also we are under the regime of one of the most racist and backwards administrations I've seen in my lifetime, and yet and still there are young Euro-Americans out in the street struggling side by side with African Americans, Latinx, indigenous people in record numbers. So here we are, and this is the context this year's Frederick Douglass Alternative 4th of July celebration is taking place in, and we're very proud to present our wonderful lineup of speakers and readers. And also part of our tradition is, you'll learn more about that as we go along in the program. And then also we'll have music, of course, because that's the context that the original celebration came up within. So without any further ado, let us get started. Let's jump right in.
I think it was 2007 and 2008. We did the alternative 4th of July there. The first year was my had a group called the Count Basie Tribute Orchestra, right? And I think Victor McElhaney's dad cooked barbecue and all the things, right? And then the second year is when we did that. And I sent you a link, Raymond, to the when the NPR came in and they recorded James Lange and rest in peace. I'm sorry, Michael Lange, rest in peace, brother, and James Brooks reading those excerpts of that. So anyway, yeah.
One of the things I wanted to do, one of the traditions of this event, and particularly since we've been in New York, one of the things we do each year is we present an award to someone in the community who's been doing the work, as they say. And so this year, and the award is named in behalf of my mom, who was an outstanding organizer in LA. She was one of the founders of the Martin Luther King Jr. General Hospital, the Charles Drew Postgraduate Medical School. She spearheaded bringing public transportation to South Central Los Angeles. She opened the first integrated beauty shop in LA, and on and on and on. And she, during to fight against the execution of a young man in Louisiana, she raised money, and the first place she went was the Longshore workers in San Pedro, California. So anyway, this is the award Zigi's going to.
Okay, it's engraved and it's UpSurge New York City, our group 2020, the Kathy M. Green Community Building Award, presented to Angela Wellman.
Oh!
for visioning, founding, and fighting for the Oakland Public Conservatory of Music. We love you, Angela.
What a surprise.
We'll get this to you when we can see you in person.
Thank you so much. Send me a picture of it. Oh gosh, thank you so much. Wow.
Next up on the agenda, and by way of disclosure, Ms. Wellman was part of our band UpSurge NYC, and so I don't want to appear to be biased, but the next up is the producer of both of our CDs, All Hands on Deck and Chromatology. He's worked with people such as Shaka Khan and Etta James, and his music appeals to generations and crowds, music enthusiasts, multi-genres and cultures. And my experience has been, if there's anyone who's capable of touching the souls of people from different walks of life with his music, people with different age groups, different ethnicities, that'd be Richard Howell, guardian of the groove, and the leader of what we call Richard Howell's Sudden Changes. He is going to present us with a very special gift that the ancestors have ordained.
Thank you. Thank you, Raymond and Zigi. Great to see you. Thank you. It was an honor for me to be here.
Oh my God. We'll have to have you back. That's all I can say. Oh my God. Oh man, that was woo. For Breonna Taylor and my bride, right? That's my daughter, Brenda Turner. I wish I could. Like
Brother Ray of Reed, 'cause Breonna Taylor, close to Brian Turner to me. Oh, I wish I could sing her name, sing her name, sing her name, sing her name. Like Abby, Nina, or Big Paul, celebrating the sunny June home birth I recall. I wish I could sing her name like Maaéah or Clara Ward, feeling my hand again, cutting an umbilical cord. I wish I could sing her name like Sarah or Natalie Cole. But the recorder reminds me that that's not my role. I wish I could sing her name like Little Richard or Betty Wright, hearing Mingus's Haitian song that urges us to fight. I wish I could sing her name and other names, other towns, galvanizing Black folks and 50 million John Browns. So, the question of work, essential work. This is called essential work. Mm-hmm. We'll always need race car drivers roaring down streets where children chase balls. Like we'll always need peaceful protesters pepper sprayed like cockroaches. And we'll always need sleeping 7-year-olds shot while dreaming of dolls, sleepovers, tooth fairies. We'll always need children playing with toy guns in parks executed before becoming Hulk Hogan's. We'll always need doors kicked in and our daughters and sons slaughtered in wee hours, even if it is the wrong address. We'll always need elderly parents whacked for accidentally pressing emergency alerts. Like we'll always need mentally ill loved ones massacred in our homes. We'll always need men rushing pregnant wives to hospitals, shot for speeding, and fathers of 6 who hustle too hard, chokehold lynched. We'll always need young women who drive and smoke, stopped and suicided, and mothers wearing masks wrong, wrestled down in subway stations as their 4-year-olds watch. Mm-hmm. We'll always need wallets mistaken for guns, Glocks for tasers, fleeing Black men shot in their backs, and bridegrooms butchered night before their weddings. We'll always need tasered hearts skanking in reggae rhythms and broken broomsticks rammed up men's rectums for fun. We'll always need bruised, bloodied, disfigured faces, eyeballs dangling from sockets. We'll always need drugs and guns planted, growing into cases, concertina wire, COVID-19. We'll always need right hooves raised, testifying to judges and juries of peers on the need for knees on necks, 56 licks or 41 shots served to protect poverty. Mm.
So musically, as I pointed out earlier, the founding of this event at the Oakland Public Conservatory has always given it a decidedly musical character, and continuing now, I'd like to bring up the bassist, contrabassist, Hilliard Greene. Hilliard Greene has been studying and playing music he's been studying music and for 50 years and playing professionally for 40. And he's performed classical, rock, blues, jazz on all the continents of the world and all across the United States of America. But in my opinion, if he did nothing else in this world and his resume had no other entries, he could say that he was musical director for one of the greatest vocalists in jazz history for almost a quarter of a century. And that would be Jimmy Scott. For those of you who know jazz, you know Jimmy Scott. Mr. Hilliard Greene.
Thank you, Raymond.
Oh.
Way in the water. Way in the water, children. Way in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. When you ran, you had to be clandestine. Wade through the water. That way, the bloodhounds lose your scent.
what, you know, since we have Hilliard Greene, saxophone, bassist, and Richard Howell, saxophonist, when we get to when we start bringing this home, I was hoping that there's some kind of way that you guys could defy technology and do some kind of call and response. So you put some forehead to that, and when we get to the, you know, to the home stretch, let's do that. Next up, we have, and you know what I just discovered. This is how I'm very excited. So you have to excuse me. I'm very excited. So I did not introduce myself. I'm Raymond Turner, poet in residence with the Black Agenda Report and co-chair of the New York chapter of the National Writers Union. And my partner in crime is Zigi Lowenberg.
I want to also say that Raymond founded UpSurge in Berkeley, and then we were active in Oakland and Berkeley for over 25 years, and we moved to Harlem, and we reconfigured our group, and Hilliard is a part of UpSurge New York City. And we, Raymond invited me into UpSurge formally in about 1996. I was a guest poet before then. And I'm honored, and in the process, somewhere along the line, we got married, actually. 2001. Okay.
Wow.
Trepidatious Grace. Gracie, with her lovely ankle dangling outside of her mouth, tripping on the vanishing hem of the Shekhinah. Slapstick sideshow, minstrelling for mercy, ticker tape for the awkward. Like in PIccolo at the Festival dei Bruti, why not celebrate the ugly? Power to the klutz as we stumble over cracks in our systemic sidewalks, mixing up our metaphors on the yellow brick road to swanhood. Bless us, the clumsy, the awkward, and the crude. God and Goddess, we are your perspiring students. Usher us through the unjust aisles to a rebirth. Converge on our upper lip of sweat, careen on our funky breath of prayer and protest. Untame the polite, wild the thirst, geomancy that holy spring of justice, an oasis in our well-trodden desert. After 7 circles of wandering, we glimpse our bride arriving. Excuse me, I butt in across the room. I don't know the rules here, but I know we were once from the same tribe. Threads from tattered flags pull me towards you, float along the ocean that fools the eye with its expanse. We are salt, we are water, we are sand. Pogroms and raids, marches and parades, a border, a wall. We've seen them all. We stand for migrant justice. So toss ice on the rocks. Where hinder transport and roadblocks. Families carry refugee heartache. No rules to follow, no laws to break. Threads from pattern
Zoom audio. think I just did it.
Threads from tattered
How did
flag.
that happen? I found a speaker.
Stuffed in bags, holding your child's hand. We are salt, we are water, we are sand. No rules to follow, no laws to break, for now we woke and won't let go. We are the embrace, and to you, your generations, I am tethered. Somos unidos, ale ein Menschen. We are salt, we are water, we are sand, we are one. Thank you. I did want to just say one thing. We got word today, just before we started, that at Mount Rushmore in the Black Hills of the Native Americans, the First Nation peoples, they are attacking them right now with tear gas and pepper bullets, and the National Guard are wearing gas masks.
My God.
We want to send out prayers of resistance and strength, and I just needed to say that we are all connected, and we are the Richard Howell line, the song he's done. We are all connected. Thank you.
So moving right along, thank you, Ziggy. Moving right along, it's my great pleasure to introduce, typically they use the phrase, someone who needs no introduction, but there's a bit of confusion with the name. There's an imposter in the white Supreme Court, not on Capitol Hill, but in the white Supreme Court. He's a leader of the Bass Ackwards tribe that has such infamous characters in it as Strong Arm Williams, and as Amiri Baraka named this character Tom as Clarence.
As Clarence.
Yeah. But we, in the labor movement, in the House of Labor, are blessed to have the real Clarence Thomas, a man who is part of the ILWU, International Longshore and Warehouse Workers, Local 10, retired, comes from a long line. He's the third generation of longshore workers, comes from a long line of hellraisers like the late Leo Robinson. And one of the things, how I first became connected with them was when they organized the Million Worker March in 2004, which was so advanced. You know, it's like the demands that Bernie Sanders, or the programs that Bernie Sanders was advocating, the Million Worker March had a list of demands that included all that, and then some. It trebled that. Healthcare, universal health care for all, free education, and also taking a stand against the carceral system, taking a stand in favor of housing for all. So Clarence was really a part of that, and we always joke, we have a running joke that when he comes, he brings a certain thing that was talked about in the film Ray. And so without any further ado, I give you Brother Clarence Thomas, who's going to labor and in the context of what we're dealing with right at the moment.
Well, thank you, Brother Raymond, for that wonderful introduction. And it's really an honor to be on the program with you and Ziggy, Brother Richard Howell, and Angela Wellman, and Brother Greene. So many talented people here today. I guess the first thing I wanted to say is, Ziggy, thank you for giving us that update on what's happening at Mount Rushmore. But moving on from that, I think that it's important for people to know a little bit about the ILWU Local 10. It is the only predominantly African-American longshore local on the West Coast. And it is the local of the great Harry Bridges, who was an Australian immigrant, who led the 1934 waterfront strike. And it's important to bring that up because on July 5th, this Sunday, we will commemorate the anniversary of two strikers who were killed in 1934. It was called Bloody Thursday because of those deaths. They were shot in the back by San Francisco police who were never prosecuted. And on each July 5th, no longshore workers performed for 24 hours. And that's to pay tribute to those who made the ultimate sacrifice. And I bring that up because our union really does understand the relationship between race and class. We understand that the police protect the powerful, the privileged, the wealthy, and the police represent the state. They represent repression. And of course, when it comes to Black and brown people, they represent racist police terror. The police, in terms of their relationship to African Americans, started with the slave catcher patrols. And the lack of humanity, they treat us as if we're 3/5 of a human being. They wouldn't treat a dog the way African American men, women, and children are treated today. Let's fast forward to 2010, October 23rd. It was the first time that a trade union had ever taken an action in solidarity with victims of police terror when we shut down all 5 Bay Area ports, calling for justice for Oscar Grant in jail for killer cops. And that happened as a result of Cephas Johnson, otherwise known as Uncle Bobby, came to Local 10 and talked about what happened to his nephew, Oscar Grant, on the platform of the BART station that has recently been renamed Oscar Grant BART station. Police murder of African Americans, specifically, and people of color, is a working class issue. And it is because of the white supremacy and systemic racism within the trade union movement that it has not been widely recognized as such. For the last 5 decades, starting with May Day 2015, we have shut down all Bay Area ports, calling for an end to police terror, and also calling for other trade unions around the country to take a position. We believe that if all trade unionists in the United States, especially those that are in transportation, would withhold their labor at the same time, every time a person of color is killed by the police, these killings would stop, because the labor movement represents the most organized sector of the working class. And if labor is to be heard, if the working class is to be heard, then labor must shut it down, which is exactly what we did on June 19th, 2020. And Brother Raymond, you were there, a part of that historic moment. ILWU Local 10 President Trent Willis, ILWU Local 34 President Keith Shanklin, Both of those brothers were part of the organizing committee of the Million Worker March. They were able to make the case to all Longshore local presidents representing Longshore unions from San Diego to Bellingham, Washington, including Vancouver, Canada. For 8 hours on Juneteenth, we had Sister Angela Davis speak. We had musician and director Boots Riley and actor humanitarian Danny Glover, all speaking on that day. For 8 hours, Wall Street made no money. For 8 hours, the largest shipping companies did not make a cent. For 8 hours, Walmart, Target, all of the major manufacturing concerns that depend on longshore workers on the West Coast to move cargo, no money was earned. We think that this is the absolute necessary action that has to be taken on the part of the labor movement. And we are proud that it's Black trade unionists, some of the most radical in the United States, if not the world, are standing up and fighting back and setting that example. I don't want to go on too much longer because I have a tendency to be like Coltrane, go on, and Miles said, take the horn out your mouth. So I'm gonna have to take the horn out. Brother Howell, understand what I'm saying. But I just, you know, I'm just so grateful that to be on the program this evening means a great deal to me. Actually, Raymond, you know, you and I, we met before the Million Worker March. It was an anti-Taft-Hartley and anti-war rally or conference held at I think it was Mission High School. And you presented me with an UpSurge DVD.
Oh, that's
yes,
that's right.
CD rather. And I never will forget, I offered you money. You said, no, brother, that's, and I will never forget that. Not to mention the role that you played in helping my grandson, Jameer, when you at LeConte in Berkeley. I'm getting personal now. But all politics are local. And
no, we do.
Yeah. So
go ahead, Clarence. This is the shortest speech. We allowed you a few more minutes, actually. This is the shortest speech I've ever heard you do.
Well, yeah. Well, you know, I think a person who should be able to give a good speech that's short or one that's long. And I certainly don't want to hog the mic, but I'll just conclude it with this very quickly. One of the main issues that we're fighting here in the Bay Area is that a man by the name of John Fisher, who owns the Oakland A's, owns the Gap, owns Banana Republic, owns a bunch of stuff. He's a multi-billionaire. He's trying to build a baseball park, 3,000 condominiums, and also nearly 2 million square feet of retail space and a 400-room hotel at the third busiest port on the West Coast, the Port of Oakland. And this is outlandish. This is an example of capitalism run amok. This is an example of neoliberal policies being implemented on a local level. Who can live in condos on the waterfront? And how can this coexist with the port? It's like building an amusement park on an assembly line. So this is where class and race intersect, and we're doing all we possibly can to stop this, because we don't want the city of Oakland, to become a playground for the rich and the powerful. And I just close out with this. When you drive down the Embarcadero in San Francisco today, all of those piers 1, 2, 39, going all the way down, at one point, that was all active longshore working piers. And it no longer is that today. And we don't want to see the same thing happen at the Port of Oakland if this development deal goes down. So I want to thank you, Ziggy and Raymond, for allowing me to be a part of this program. This is very important to me, and thank you so much for allowing me to express my voice here today.
Thank you, Clarence. I did want to say on the slideshow that some of you may have seen at the top of the program, we did have a picture of the port in the port of Oakland, the Black Lives Matter conference that you had. You had a press conference there. And we also did have a couple of shots of us and my dear friend who took us there, Maaéah Chambers, and her little doggy Arlo with their Black Lives Matter posters out at the port on Juneteenth. So that was a great outpouring there. And thank you for organizing and all the work you've done and bringing up future leadership at ILWU. I really noticed Trent Willis is taking it on, and thank you. And thank you for your work and service. And thank Dolores for me.
Yeah, because without her, I wouldn't be on the program right now because I'm challenged when it comes to Zoom. Thank you again.
Don't we all know? Don't we all know? And I just want to, kind of second that emotion a la Smokey Robinson by saying that when you all conducted that shutdown of 29 West Coast ports, it was rather significant. And I don't think, somehow I think the magnitude of that feat is lost on many people, to shut down 29 ports on the West Coast of the United States of America. And I know about ports because I was born at the port of Los Angeles. So I know the significance of that, but I saw with my own eyes, Juneteenth, how traffic was tied up in Oakland. Trucks were going nowhere. It was no business as usual. And it was a very powerful statement and it really inspired young activists that were out there, activists of all nationalities, age groupings. And I mean, we had some really young people out there, and they saw the power of the working class. And I was particularly proud, as was the case with a number of other African Americans out there, to see African American workers in the lead on that action. So thank Trent Willis, Keith Shanklin, and Brother Clarence, and all the other sisters and brothers at ILWU Local 10. Thank you for engaging us today and sharing your time with us.
Thank you.
So I have an idea about trying to breach technology and see if Richard and Hill could somehow do a call and response. Hill is in New York, Richard is in California, and we have 5 minutes, and I don't know, is that possible? Because if
we're good.
Richard's
game.
So Richard's game. So if I could play Quincy on this, could I play Quincy Jones on this? And Hill gives the call and Richard gives the response. How's that? That's just my directorial.
Do we have Hilliard in space?
We don't see him.
I hope his internet connection is good. There he is.
Oh, there's Hilliard Greene here. There's a radio program here in the Bay Area on KPFA, WBAI sister station in the Pacifica network, and it's called Hard Knock Radio, and it has a little intro that said, "Never been done before, never been done before." So I think.
Okay. Can you?
Raphael, I see you.
All right, this is Hill. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Yeah, like that we can. If you do that, we can.
Okay. Okay. So this is the mic I use attached to my bass. So I will, when we get ready to play, I'll put it back on my bass.
Okay. Yeah, you're going to start with the call
And
then Richard will be responding to you.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready, Hilliard.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, God. Oh,
Wow.
man.
Hey.
Lord.
Oh my God. Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh,
Thank you.
Oh, so touching and beautiful. Both of you. Thank you. Thank you, Hilliard.
Thanks.
Thank you, Richard.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
I'd like to introduce Pamela K. Johnson. We, as Raymond mentioned earlier, we are both members of the National Writers Union. Raymond is the co-chair of the New York chapter, and I am a member on the steering committee of the New York chapter and also a trustee of the National Union. And I've had the pleasure of working with, on the executive committee of the union, Pamela K. Johnson. She's the second vice president of the National Writers Union, and she has written several blog posts about Frederick Douglass, and we just found that out very recently. We're excited to have her. She's also interviewed some of his descendants, so we have the deep pleasure of knowing more and more of the layers of Pamela K. Johnson.
I'm not gonna lie. The thing I first noticed about Frederick Douglass was the hair. There was something about it that said to me, I'm a free man. And mind you, I'm finding out about this guy like 150 years after he was born. When I'm in elementary school and people are giving each other static about having nappy hair or not having good hair. And I was compared to white people, and I was like, here this man was during slavery for many of those years, and he was not tripping on that.
I will take 150 pounds sterling for the manumission of my slave, Frederick Bailey, alias Douglass. Uald, 1846.
The thing that got me thinking about Douglass in recent years was hearing about a book called Picturing Frederick Douglass. And basically the book said that he was the most photographed man of the 19th century, and that's more than General Custer, President Grant, President Lincoln, like everybody who was his contemporary. And it was by design, because he knew that by sitting there with that new medium, that he could be captured as he really was, and that Black people could be captured as they really were. Not the caricatures, not the ways that we were portrayed to make us look bad, but just as we were. And I was motivated to actually blog about Douglass, and I got to meet one of his descendants. And one of the stories that I found most impressive about Douglass is that he returned to the plantation where he met with the man who had once enslaved him. And the people from Eastern Maryland came around and were, you know, Douglass by that time had an incredible reputation. He was an author, he was an orator, he had gone to the British Isles, and the people in Europe actually helped him raise the money to buy his freedom from his master, because prior to that time, he'd been a fugitive slave. He like booked out. And so he went back and touched base and said, I'm a man, you're a man. And not only I'm a man, you're a man, but all these people that you enslaved, all of my people are worthy of the respect and the freedom that I have. And I'm just putting that on you, my brother. So, so I love that. And I also love getting the opportunity to meet Kenneth B. Morris, who is, I think, great-great-great-great-great-grandson of Frederick Douglass, is also descended from Booker T. Washington, who founded Tuskegee Institute. So it's just been a real pleasure to take kind of a deep dive into the subject of Frederick Douglass, because it has so many gifts. And he was such an incredible person. And I think that even now there are a lot of things we can learn through his legacy.
That was amazing.
Oh, thank
That was
you.
beautiful. That was
Yeah.
beautiful.
Extraordinary. Yeah, really great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is a blessing. So I want to see more of that. How can people find out more of where to find your blog or research? You know,
Well, I have a website, PamelaKJohnson.com, and I guess I'll probably post this at some point. I'm going to do a little more tweaking on it because, like I say, I just finished it seconds ago. But also I'm at on Twitter. I'm at Pamela Says, SEZ. So that's a direct, quick hit way to reach me.
And I just wanted to add my little 1.5 cents that Pamela, as you mentioned in the introduction, is second vice president of the National Writers Union. And that means she's a national officer. And when I first met her at a National Writers Union event, I was extraordinarily proud to see a young African-American woman, very articulate, intelligent, and, you know, she doesn't take any, you know, hush your mouth, you know, that kind of stuff. Yeah, so I'm very proud to be in an organization with someone like her of that caliber. You know, so I think as far as the National Writers Union goes, the National Writers Union is poised to be in very good shape with the likes of her, because that, you know, it's a conscious decision as to who is in leadership, and it's not an accident that she's in leadership. And so, you know, my congratulations to her for her work and her staunchness and steadfastness and her vision. Right on.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Pamela, actually, we have a couple of minutes if you want to say something about the National Writers Union and the recent
Sure.
struggle.
Sure, yeah. We're in the process of rebranding our organization. We're working on our website to reflect the work we've been doing in recent years and recent months even on the Freelance Solidarity Project, which is bringing together freelancers within the media to work on contracts and work on best practices and to help in this uncertain media market that we're currently facing. We're looking at copyright issues. We're looking at women in the workplace and some of the harassment that continues. So we're seeking to be a place where people who are in every aspect of media feel at home, feel a sense of community, and have the resources of the organization as well as the resources of one another. So those are some things that we're moving forward.
Okay, and I just put in the chat that anybody's more interested either in joining or finding out more about us, it's National Writers Union, and it's nwu.org.
Right, and the last thing I will say is we take donations, and we also encourage you, if you know someone who's a writer in your life, you could consider gifting them a membership. So that's
very reasonable as well. We have different levels depending on your income as a writer.
Mm.
And we also do cover every genre of writing, and whether you're unpublished currently and hope to publish, or you're very published. We have a large range, and there's a lot of resource for you to check in with more experienced writers than yourself as well. Thank you. Thanks, Pamela.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are getting to the, what do they call it, the, the grand finale. That's the word I was looking for. One of our readers is not present today, so we're going to go to the second reader. And that would be, I have the great pleasure of introducing an actor, scholar, acting teacher, director, a writer and critic. But I also think of her as a friend, and her name is Lisa Tyler Renaud. But actually, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce all the readers, so there'll be continuity. One reader will read an excerpt from Frederick Douglass's historic 1852 speech, "What is the 4th of July to the slave?" that was delivered to the Rochester Women's Anti-Slavery Society. That's one reader, Lisa Tyler Renaud, who, full disclosure intended, was my teacher.
Mine too, our beloved teacher.
Yeah. And the next reader following Lisa will be Kim McMillan. And Kim just recently received her doctorate in world cultures from the University of California in 2019. And Kim is a very, very, very dear friend who has been known to say that you two are two of my favorite people. That's that's what we called her. But aside from that, she's a real community builder. She's been active in the arts community in the Bay Area for a very long time, pulling people together and bringing people together. Sometimes people who don't even like to be in the same room with one another. Kim can make it happen. And our last reader would be Mr. Robert Cuffey, who is a brother I met in New York. I was putting together an event and I needed some guidance. And here's this young man, that was there, and incredibly gifted individual, and someone who's very principled. And Robert is a co-founder of the Socialist Workers Alliance of Guyana.
This passage opens with Psalm 137 from the Book of Psalms. Quote, "By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down. Yea, we wept when we remembered Zion. We hanged our harps upon the willows in the midst thereof. For there, they that carried us away captive required of us a song, and they who wasted us required of us mirth, saying, sing us one of the songs of Zion. How can we sing the Lord's song in a strange land? If I forget thee, O Jerusalem, let my right hand forget her cunning. If I do not remember thee, let my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth." Close quote. Fellow citizens, above your national tumultuous joy, I hear the mournful wail of millions whose chains, heavy and grievous yesterday, are today rendered more intolerable by the jubilee shouts that reach them. If I do forget, if I do not faithfully remember those bleeding children of sorrow this day, quote, may my right hand forget her cunning, and may my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth, close quote. To forget them, to pass lightly over their wrongs, and to chime in with the popular theme would be treason, most scandalous and shocking, and would make me a reproach before God and the world. My subject, then, fellow citizens, is American slavery. I shall see this day and its popular characteristics from the slave's point of view, standing there unidentified with the American bondman, making his wrongs mine. I do not hesitate to declare with all my soul that the character and conduct of this nation never looked blacker to me than on this 4th of July. Whether we turn to the declarations of the past or to the professions of the present, the conduct of the nation seems equally hideous and revolting. America is false to the past, false to the present, and solemnly binds herself to be false to the future. Standing with God and the crushed and bleeding slave on this occasion, I will, in the name of humanity which is outraged, in the name of liberty which is fettered, in the name of the Constitution and the Bible, which are disregarded and trampled upon, dare to call in question and to denounce with all the emphasis I can command everything that serves to perpetuate slavery, the great sin and shame of America. I will not equivocate, I will not excuse. I will use the severest language I can command, and yet not one word shall escape me that any man whose judgment is not blinded by prejudice or who is not at heart a slaveholder shall not confess to be right and just.
For the present, it is enough to affirm the equal manhood of the Negro race. Is it not astonishing that while we are plowing, planting, and reaping, using all kinds of mechanical tools, erecting houses, constructing bridges, building ships, working in metals of brass, iron, copper, silver, and gold, that while we are reading, writing, and ciphering, acting as clerks, merchants, and secretaries, having among us lawyers, doctors, ministers, poets, authors, editors, orators, and teachers, that while we are engaged in all manner of enterprises common to other men, digging gold in California, capturing the whale in the Pacific, feeding sheep and cattle on the hillside, living, moving, acting, thinking, planning, living in families as husbands, wives, and children, and above all, confessing and worshiping. Am I to argue that it's wrong to make men brutes, to rob them of their liberty, to work them without wages, to keep them ignorant, of their relations to their fellow men, to beat them with sticks, to flay their flesh with a lash, to load them their limbs with irons, to hunt them with dogs, to sell them at auction, to sunder their families, to knock out their teeth, to burn their flesh, to starve them into obedience and submission to their masters. Must I argue that a system thus marked with blood and stained with pollution is wrong? No, I will not. I have better employment for my time and strength than such arguments would imply. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. What to the American slave is the 4th of July? What to the American slave is your 4th of July? I answer, a day that reveals to him, more than all other days in the year, the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is the constant victim. To him, your celebration is a sham, your boasted liberty, an unholy license, your national greatness, swelling vanity. Your sounds of rejoicing are empty and heartless. Your denunciation of tyrants, brass-fronted impudence. Your shouts of liberty and equality, hollow mockery. Your prayers and hymns, your sermons and thanksgivings, with all your religious parade and solemnity, are, to him, mere bombast, fraud, deception, impiety, and hypocrisy. A thin veil to cover up crimes which would disgrace a nation of savages. There is not a nation of savages. There is not a nation on earth guilty of practices more shocking and bloody than are the people of the United States at this very hour. Go where you may, search where you will, roam through all the monarchies and despotisms of the old world, travel through South America, search out every abuse, and when you have found the last, lay your facts by the side of the everyday practices of this nation, and you will say with me that for revolting barbarity and shameless hypocrisy, America reigns without a rival.
Those were the words of our esteemed ancestor, Frederick Douglass. The problem I have with them is that they read as if they were written 20 minutes ago. They still resonate when we watch the almost 9-minute murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis, and we hear about the murder of Breonna Taylor in her bed, and people being tasered and shot with rubber bullets and projectiles of all sorts. That, you know, it's almost as if he wrote specifically for the moment we're, I guess, blessed or cursed by cell phones that capture barbarity. Speaking of Douglass, there's a gentleman that said maybe 3 or 4 years back that Douglass was doing good work. I think, I guess this gentleman believed Douglass is alive. And I would concur with him in some ways that he is doing good work. And, but the gentleman in question, and I use that term gentleman loosely, of course, a thief, a thug, clown in the rug, a tweet, deceit, a lie, a cheat, embellishing order, a line disorder, a myth, a fable, a bit unstable, flim flam, clap trap, buckum, bull crap, an empty wagon, a puffed up dragon, a whopper fib, you peep from your crib, a sham, a fake, a major mistake, pathological line, false flag flying, a grope, a trope, bad jokes, breast strokes, a grope of a crotch, another man knots, where they debauch over water and scotch, a trumped up story, cock and bull glory, a foot in the mouth for strategy south, pie in the sky, a bare-faced lie, a pig in disguise, fooling some eyes, playing fast and loose with Jim Jones juice, a masquerade, a Nazi parade, fake great nation, same plantation, a bug in the hall, a fly on the wall, a great big whale, an ongoing tale, a parade in July, another big lie, a wink of an eye, enough I'll cry. A thief, a thug, clown in a rug, a tweet, deceit, a lie, a cheat, time for feet in the street, sustaining street heat.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Raymond. Beautiful.
That was brilliant.
Beautiful.
I was actually wondering if, I know early on it's late in New York and Florida on the East Coast time. So I don't know if my mom and Joseph are still on the call, but if Sarah could let me know that, that'd be great. But I'm going to go ahead and do a piece that I'm gonna dedicate. I have dedicated it to her, and I've done it before. And it is for an ancestor of both of ours. It was her aunt, my great aunt. Red Aunt Gertie, in memory of Clara Lemlich, Gertrude Aronson, and Sandra Bland, for Mom. Ich hab etwas zu sagen, which is Yiddish for, I have something to say. Once upon a time ago, New York City thousands marched. Stop the lynching, our cloth banner billowed. Rippling arch marching, Greenwich Village comrades, party folk, shining red ripe for revolution. Gertrude strode and shouted, wool-stockinged leather heels punctuating cobblestone. Gertrude strode and shouted, righteous indignation, flushing cheeks, stamping feet, raising crimson flags. Decades later, New York City thousands march, gripping hand-lettered signs, vocal weft of textured accents, echo off vaulted skyscrapers, surging shades of human tapestry, weaving the grid, blocking the box, names of the newly lynched, peeling from megaphones, feet chanting on asphalt, whose streets? Our streets, Whose streets?
Our streets.
Whose streets?
Our streets.
Under no single banner, she strides and shouts. Gertrude's niece, still marching.
Yeah.
Coming to the conclusion of our program, but before we do that, I would like to thank all the participants, the readers, Robert Cuffey, Kim McMillan, Alyssa Tyler Renault. I'd like to thank Pamela Johnson for her presentation on Frederick Douglass. And I'd like to thank Brother Clarence Thomas for enlightening us on the power that the working class has if it chooses to wield it. I'd like to thank Hilliard Greene for Wade in the Water, and Richard Howell for Lift Every Voice. And also I'd like to thank them for the marvelous collaboration they did defying technology. And I'd like to thank Angela Wellman for joining us, representing the Oakland Public Conservatory of Music. And if I'm leaving anyone out, I'll probably be getting a kick under the table from someone next to me.
Uh-oh, I wasn't tracking what he was saying this time. It's
Thank you, Sarah.
Sarah Gasser, yes, thank you. She's our stage manager.
Yeah,
she's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah.
So we'd like to close out with Army of Artists. Rhythm of a rose, melody in the mirror. We are an army of artists, merchants of life, beauty's our bomb, love its shrapnel.
We are an army of artists, infantry on feet of celebration, toes polishing hardwood floors with our perspiration.
We are an army of artists, brandishing sticks and brushes, softening up enemies with strokes and notes. Partisans wielding pastels, oils, and acrylics, connecting dots, hitting spots on canvas and paper.
We are an army of artists. Foreign fighters, formerly known as dukes, counts, birds, pops, militant magi, weaving trees in azure skies, etching prayers and murals with our tears.
We are an army of artists, asymmetrical warriors, mopping up murals, gracing broken down buildings, enemy combatants, bases, snipers shooting sun into hearts held hostage by the 1%. Ellingtonia is our tonic for subdominant dream.
We are an army of artists, dangerously unselfish enemies of ignorance, drumming to different dances, staging attacks in theaters, exploding in applause. Thank you all so much for your kind and your generosity with your time. We love you all it is our sincere hope that this gathering under the COVID cloud has given you a little pause, a little moment to pause and be inspired about the potential, the human potential that we all embody. All of us that were here, we embody that potential, and I hope we go out into the world and reconnect with the mission, the tasks that need to be done. So thank you so much again.
Yeah, I want to thank you also for being here and letting you know that we are going to, we've been recording this and we are hoping to post it on YouTube. Probably will need a little bit of editing, but we hope that then you can also, we'll let you know how we let you know about this, that you could also let other people know to look at it. And thank you for coming. We had no idea what this was, if we were going to be able to pull it off this year. And I see this amazing grid of people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the chats alone will keep us buoyed. Comments in the chat room will keep us buoyed for the next week. So at least, mwah, love you. And we just want to remind Sarah to pull the recording before we leave the meeting, so we still make sure we have it.
Put an end to the culture of war. Cut back on the oil that it kills folks for.
As long as there's greed, there can be no peace. Imperialist bloodshed simply must cease.
Take to the streets and protest in the USA. Take to the streets and protest in the UK. The streets in protest in the USA. Take to the streets in protest in the UK.
Our war is here against hunger and greed and racist bloodshed on which fascists feed.
Into battles for homes and health. Soften up enemies to liberate our wealth.
Take to the streets in protest in the USA.
In the USA.
Take to the streets in protest in the UK.
In the UK.
Take to the streets in protest in the USA.
In the US.
Take to the streets in protest in the UK.
In the UK. Pay no attention to false tongues in their polls. Listen to the voices that are deep in our souls.
Take to the streets in protest in the USA.